Hello, for those watching in the hindsight of the future, it is the internet. Hello, you're very welcome. You're watching a Gauntlet Hangouts game. The Gauntlet is a community internet of cool people get together to play interesting role-playing games. Indie games, OSR games, story games, so to speak. You can find them at gauntlet-rpg.com. Links down below. We are playing The Veil by Fraser Simons. It is a cyberpunk powered by the apocalypse role-playing game. It's all about post-humanity. It's post-cyberpunk. It's like the cyberpunk after the 80s, so to speak. It's weird and dense and full of crazy ideas. But before we jump into them, we did our kind of player introductions at the start, but we'll do them again so we can get better used to each other. So I'll call you out and say name, pronouns, and also if there's a cool thing in the internet you want to shout out, like anything you're involved with or just something you think people should know, feel free to do so. If you don't have any, that's perfectly fine as well. I'm going to go by alphabetical order of what I have here on the screen. So, Alex, tell us about yourself.
Yep, that will be. So I'm Alex. This is actually my second game in the Gauntlet, so fairly new. I'm a Greek living in Stockholm, and I go by he/him pronouns. Don't have too much experience with a veil, but I'm really happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to how it will go today. Do we want to do character introductions now as well, or should we wait?
No, not quite yet. After this, we'll go to our safety tools first, and then we'll jump into characters. But let's just introduce our players for now. Up next, we have Christopher. Tell us. Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi, I'm Christopher. I go by he/him. I live in Germany. I never played the whale, so I'm very curious what will happen tonight. Let's find out.
Yeah, hopefully, you'll have fun. And up next, Paolo, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Paweł. I'm from Poland, and yeah, I don't have any more in internet presence, but except Gauntlet playing on the Hangouts. So yeah, I look forward to seeing the future.
Let's hope it's any better than what we have right now. Well, no, it's a cyberpunk future, so it's basically no, it's not. Last but not least, Slavik, tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Slavik. I use he/him. I live in the UK and haven't been on the Gauntlet for too long. I play primarily PBTAs overall, but I haven't had the pleasure of playing the Veil, so I'm excited to see what it's all about. I'm staying for the camera just for a little bit, and just in a couple of minutes I'll come back online.
Wow, I'm looking forward to seeing your face, I guess. Sorry. Yeah, so before we get into the Veil, let's talk about safety tools first, because part of the playing the Gauntlet is we try to make sure everyone is playing in a comfortable environment. Like, we're here to have fun, so to speak. We're here to make sure that people are enjoying themselves and to minimize the risk of things getting uncomfortable. We have our safety tools. So first and foremost, we have lines and veils. Basically, lines are things that won't be crossed, things that won't be in the fiction. It just won't show up at all. And veils are things that can happen in the fiction, but we throw a veil over them, so to speak. So we're not going to concentrate on them. And we have a tab for lines and veils in Character Keeper. If you just scroll at least to the right, we add a few there. Like you just add whatever you want there. I try not to shout them out on the broadcast themselves. But just like if there's anything crossing your mind, make sure to add them, and I'll check like during the break and shout out to yourselves on the chat like what's been added there. We also have the X card, which is basically if we end up in a scene that makes someone uncomfortable for any if it just makes you uncomfortable for any reason whatsoever, you can throw up X here or on the chat or on the roll for your party or dice roller, which I should put the link in I'll put the link in the chat there as well. Basically, with that's thrown up, I might clarify what it is that's being X-carded, but no one gets to question why it's being X-carded. It's just that if it's X-carded, it happens. We're going to roll back. We're going to redact that from what's happening, and we're going to try a different tack. And finally, we have an open door policy here in this game. So basically, if any of you need to leave, whether for an emergency or you need to take a break or you're just not as up to it as you thought you are, you can call that at any time and we will accommodate you. Even if it's just for a break. Like I have that, I have well, I know when like the breaks are gonna happen, but like if you need to take a break now, you can definitely call for that. That's perfectly fine with me. And yeah, I think that's our safety tool. So, like I said, we're playing The Veil, written by Fraser Simon, published by Sam Joko Publishing. We are using a campaign frame from this the Cascade supplement called Holistic Blame. So basically, I'll go through the cats fairly quickly. Cats is content, aim, tone, and subject matter. So the content is, The Veil is a post-cyberpunk game. It's about exploring the definition of what it means to be human. It's a toolbox of weird tropes ideas. We have some quite interesting and complicated playbooks here that we're going to grapple with. Specifically, Holistic Blame is set in this hierarchical city called Prudence. It's a highly stratified city. Main cutting edge technologies are focused on keeping a balanced ecology. So imagine like jungles and trees and whatnot. And it's all about it's that classic age old class struggle story. Like if we're in this future where a lot of problems have been solved, so to speak, who's actually benefiting from those solutions? And we'll talk about like what brought our characters all together after we meet them. The aim is to explore this strange future. Find out for ourselves our own definitions of humanity using this frame around this mystery that you have to solve. The agenda for The Veil, or my agenda as the GM, is to make the world feel real, make it high-tech, and make it personal. Embed the final question into everyone and everything. Don't worry about that. That's worry. Make the protagonist's lives interesting and interconnected, and play to find out what happens. So the tone is going to be like dramatic. It's gonna be moody, but looks like contemplative and earnest. Like The Veil, I'll say right now, it is a bit of a slow game because there's a lot to grapple with it, but that means there's a lot to like think about and chew on. I'll be asking a lot of questions, and most of the time, like the setting, what will be defined by your answers to that question. And I've kind of mentioned the subject matter. This is about this future and how you're all defined by it, what's different from here to now, and all this hierarchical nonsense. It's kind of like the subject matter of what we're dealing with. But who's dealing with all that? So let's get into characters. So so when I call your characters, we're gonna go by the order of the character keeper here. Shout out their like name and their playbook there, and basically like give us like a 101 on kind of like your idea for them. And then I'm gonna ask you all about the specific stuff that's in their playbook, like the special stuff. So yeah, let's start with character, the one at the top. Let's talk about Savak. Let's talk about Sawako.
So Sawako is the local honor bound. She is a kind of an enforcer for a temple. Everyone knows about the temple, and she's sort of a representative of it. She's got a feminine body and wears ornate robes representing her duty to the temple. Her face is replaced with a doll-like prosthetic, which is always bearing a polite but albeit eerie and vacant smile. She's got a sinewy build and is of Asian descent, and her jam is to enforce obligations on behalf of the temple. So she cares about all those obligations quite a lot, and may be seen as a sort of a little bit like a samurai ninja trope, but more in the spy role rather than the warrior.
All right, so I think with the honor bound, it's like you define obligation. So for those who don't know, obligation is kind of like it's this societal feeling of debt that permeates the veil, or the place that the veil is set. People, it's like debts, but like in a much deeper societal basis. And the honor bound kind of helps define that. So you are the enforcer, for this institute, for this temple that upholds obligation. So when someone needs debts owed to them taken care of, to you this task falls to. So the place you work for is unique. Why? Because why is it unique?
It's unique because it's a safe place where people find sanctuary. There is no veil there, and it is revered by those in the city because such is the tradition that this is a common place to gather, and always was a little bit like a community center with a tranquil dojo, some springs with fresh water, with ancient bits of brick and mortar integrated into modern decor, and there's always safety and sanctuary there for those who need it, even if they don't deserve it. And I imagine that it's somewhere in the middle. It's not sort of in the posh bottoms of the city, but it's also not in some sort of spire. I'm thinking that perhaps it was on top of a really tall building to denote high status, but as the city grew, it was kind of outgrown by everything else around it.
That's interesting. Especially since as time went on, something with Prudence is that its upper class went lower and its slums kind of went higher. So it's interesting that there's this place of calm up there at the top. It's probably seems fairly nice still. So many people have come here over time. Some of them become your chosen friends. So who are these 3 friends of yours?
I'm thinking that the 3 friends would be Tenzo, who's a bit of a mentor to me, a lover called Kaede, and like a little boy who found sanctuary in the temple and kind of lives there, and it's my responsibility to take care of him.
Nice. So also in all in society feel the responsibility of obligations at one time or another. You didn't create these penalties, bring it on us with your responsibility to enforce them. So what generates obligation in society? And this goes for every other PC as well.
Right. So I'm also thinking that probably more things than just these in co-obligation, but these are the ones that I would be concerned with. And that happens when someone makes a mistake that harms another person, or when someone visits an injustice upon society. And the penalties that I can levy on people who transgress these rules is just straight up execution, but it can also be public humiliation or penance involving sacrifice. And this is the sort of thing I do, but I only do it because Tenzo, my mentor, saved my life, and I consider myself to be in his service.
What did he save you from?
Sorry?
What did he save you from?
Death, I imagine. That's probably how I got the scars.
Ooh.
I didn't decide whether it was some sort of an accident or maybe I was attacked. Maybe I was a child back then. I don't really remember.
That makes sense. But like, so how long have you had this prosthetic then? Since you're a child then?
Probably since say puberty or something like that. Once I stopped growing and I could actually get one.
How do you think people usually treat you? Like, not just as because of the prosthetic, but because of your role. Like, how does the city see you, you think?
I think that it depends on how rich or poor and how traditional or liberal you are. I would imagine that the liberal people are kind of thinking that a throwback to the past, really, an ancient tool that has no purpose anymore. And probably the rich think that I'm just a bother, and the fact that the temple still has authority over the society is just kind of it doesn't give them a lot of good times, especially that the nature of debts that we are concerned with kind of makes rich people more liable for a lot of stuff they do. So I imagine that there's a bit of shunning, a little bit of trying to push me into the sidelines of the society. But I'm also imagining that the poorest of the poor kind of see us as saviors or superheroes. Not that they have
Nice.
any say.
Yeah, like the poor can also like be penalized for breaking obligation. Yeah, I think that's all I want to know for now. We'll get back to you when we go to obligation questions, whatnot.
I have one more question. Like,
Oh,
what does it mean that someone visits an injustice upon society?
To me, it means that you did something and a lot of people suffer. And it doesn't have to be direct, it doesn't have to be intentional. You did something and people suffer. So now you need to either make it right or we step in.
Okay. So,
So let's suppose that you've been flooding the market.
yeah. I get this one.
You either honor the warranty or you've got us to deal with.
Yeah, I'm just like wondering what does it say about obligation, because obligation is already in the game and it's like a kind of like a smaller thing, and now you add a way how to incur obligation, and like what if someone just maybe we'll find it in the game. I'm just like trying to think what is the connection between the obligation that you defined and the obligation we have between each other.
Well, the obligation between each other is like, yeah, it's defined each by the playbooks. That they're kind of like your bonds or relationships. That just they're kind of like to firm up your relationship between each other. We'll get to those, but I think obligation kind of like the way to think about it. There is like the obligation between people that is like it's smaller than, but this is kind of like the one that's defined here by Sawako's group is. It's something that everyone kind of knows. People can choose to give obligation for whatever reason, but because of what their society is defined, this is kind of like if you've done this, you have to give obligation.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So I think that's all I have for Sawako for now. We'll come back to you when you got obligation questions. Let's go meet Kes then, our architect.
Okay, so there is a lot to unpack with Kes. So first of all, Kes is now in Slack, which is like a new body. I find the setting taking very heavily from Altered Carbon, and so decided that I will also take a lot from Altered Carbon. So Kes died some time ago. He was I used him for Kes. He died some time ago. And one of the things I wrote into my questions or beliefs is how is my death connected to the death of Arista Jordan, our group activity we'll be doing, and then he was slacked into this body. I think that he had enough body cash or influence to just like acquire a new body after some time, and so he sort of like did acquire this body. And the body he's in is very different from his own. It's also a body of a man. But before, Kes was just a cash builder. That's his jam. He was like building this virtual reality spots. So he was also an architect. But now he's in this new body that seems to be augmented in a strange way. Has different abilities. And there is this guy in my subconscious that I think he's the previous owner because he looks like me in the mirror right now. And this guy is like I like define some part of him. I think he was like some kind of like a corporate espionage spy type of guy. Going into this way, and his name is Zeus. So yes, maybe he was a cyber terrorist or a fighter for a lost cause, but he was killed, and now I inherit his body. A very funny thing. Part of what is my wear right now. It's a display wear, so I totally imagine that everywhere on his clothes are like the marks of this like Slack creating facility, which I think is the Foresight. They are creating Slacks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he has like the clothes are still looking good, but there's like logo of Foresight on every piece of the equipment he has to use. He's obligated to use this like displayware for some time so that everyone will see that, oh, it's a Slack. And I'm totally looking to maybe see some kind of resentment from the society towards Slacks. Who knows? But yeah, he's very obviously a Slack because he has to wear this clothes for some time. I kind of imagine he has like a damaged face, as we see on the image. Not only an eye, but also so the piece of the chin and like the bigger part of over here where the eye is has been like destroyed and is now replaced by cybernetics. Yeah, architect. Cool.
Do you want to go to your special stuff?
Special stuff. My subconscious. So when I'm manipulating the digital world, some things will visit me. When I enter the digital avatar environment, choose 3 things that will bleed over into the digital environment. So first one is someone who owned the Slack before me, and his name is Zeus, and he looks just like me, and he appears to be cool 009 spy. Former friend Mina. I defined Mina as she's working over the reservoir, like the architecture or something. Probably like a kind of a fellow architect, or maybe be just a techie. Someone who probably thinks I like died and will be like probably surprised if I ever run into her to see me alive. But yeah, she's there in my subconscious. And then to spice things off, I decided to throw a place where I once lived, and I defined it as a coffin place. I think it was first described by Gibson in his book probably, and then it appeared in Cyberpunk 2020. Coffin is like this like futuristic place where you rent a room that is like basically like 1x2 or 2x2, where you have like a bed and everything else hides into the wall, and basically you can crawl in there, sleep, and maybe, I don't know, watch a TV, and then you have to leave. Or maybe it's like slightly bigger, like 2x2 meters. So it's a very claustrophobic place to live, and maybe it will somehow interestingly bleed into his digital environment. Maybe he will suddenly find himself in this like coffin place. I provided some description of the coffin from the Cyberpunk 2020.
So is it more like capsule hotels, or literally just enough space for you to lie on and that's it?
Yeah, I think, or maybe it was called capsule hotels. I really like the idea of this being like 2x2 meters something. So where you can like lie or stand, but that's it. And everything hides into the walls. Maybe the proper name for this is like a capsule hotel. I will change it.
I think capsules will be smaller, so whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, but we get it. Like 2x2, basically you can lie there or maybe stand up, and everything hides into the wall. Very claustrophobic, and there is nothing special about it because you rent it for a night and then you leave like a hotel. So there is no individuality in this place. Yeah, my cyber brain is a extra stat at +1, and it gave me a move Lady in the Red, which I find very interesting. That I can change I can basically change how I look in the digital environment. Even more, which raises this even more question: who was the Zeus guy that he needed this kind of super advanced hacking tech?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Yeah, so you weren't an architect before getting into Zeus's Slack, or were you able to?
I think Kes was an architect, but he was just like a cache builder. So he probably, from the architect playbook, he would have the move that he doesn't have now, the one about creating the construct where he like connects spaces, and he was working mostly on building the caches. I imagine for some shady people probably, they like to build caches to like store people there, or like to have a virtual meeting place or virtual training place. So he was an architect. I don't want to like play. I have no idea what this body does. I'm just like curious to like why this body does different thing that I'm used to.
Yeah. So did you just like code by this body when you needed to?
Or
Did you pick it out, or?
Uh,
Well, actually, why did you need to get a new body? What happened to you?
yeah, I died, and I don't have exact memories of how it happened. So maybe there is this like backup for this for the people who can afford it, that they can back up their memory. But it was like a day old, and they have no idea how I died. But I know
Yeah.
it's somehow connected with Arista Jordan, because I remember I was probably working for him or his corporation or his office, and then I learned that he also died. And I think I don't want to go too altered carbon, so probably Arista Jordan didn't bring me personally. I suppose I bought this body of my last savings because it was available to purchase, and I had just enough cash, and then I just downloaded into this Slack.
So right now, Arista Jordan is a she/her. She's she/her pronouns.
Okay.
No worries. Yeah, I don't think I put that in any of the documents. No worries, that's fine. But yeah, it's interesting because then you kind of died the same way she died. Then.
I have no idea how she died. So, but
she died. Well, okay, no, there's more specifics than that. But it's kind of the same as you. She died, and then a backup ended up in another Slack. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you're missing memories, and then we have someone who messes with memories. More on that later. Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, so you weren't exactly like Arista Jordan type who can just afford any Slack. You just use your savings to get this one, and this one came with their own weird nonsense. All right.
Yeah, and this body has some cybernetics. There's an eye with multispectrum magnification and a HUD, but it's unreliable. Probably the eye belonged to this body, but didn't really took well to being frozen in a pool of cold water and waiting for the new host. There's an interface that I think actually were moved from my old body to this one, which is intercepting and encrypted. So I'm really feeling good when I'm connecting to the cache or reservoir in hacking it. And there is this arm that has like a storage. I imagine that this like forearm part just like opens, and there's like storage for something. And it's twitchy because I'm not used to having this like new arm, and it's like, the nerve ending just like, it's weird. Yeah, and I looked on this extra things when you're getting cybernetics. So after deciding on what the cybernetic thing you have, it's in the book. The next step is to decide how you were able to get this cybernetics. So I took all the three ways. I stuck bargain for it, and I owe credit for it. And I'm thinking that some corporation working for Reservoir I owe to. I don't have a name for this corporation. I was waiting to see what other players bring to the game, and maybe decide on tying into this person or corporation. Probably something like a shady business. I stole or killed for it. This is thing connected to this Slack. I'm not aware of this. There's someone who's hunting this Slack because they probably like ripped this arm or this eye from someone. Maybe this like arm, and then just like got it implanted, and there is someone hunting me, and I have no idea who it is. So feel free to come up with something. And obligation. So I imagine like Foresight tries to get some kind of leverage over all architects, because they know that people with cyber brains can really mess things up. So I imagine at some point, like they approached me and they offered me maybe this eye or something. And just, one day you will pay us back. But now they have this like hold on me that I probably will be very hard to refuse. So yeah.
Well, let's see when they cash that in. I mean, you can refuse, but it is difficult. Yeah, that's a lot to work on for Cass. Oh yeah, for questions and beliefs, we're gonna do that after everyone's gonna round up, because some folks have like some blank stuff they want to tie into other PCs. So we'll go through those when we get to obligations as well. Yeah, so let's meet character number 3, Alex. Tell us about our apparatus.
Sorry, can I interject? Because I
go
on. Remove the questions, and I've skipped the questions.
Yeah, no, like I was saying, we're gonna do them along with obligations at the end, because some folks have some blank stuff that they're waiting to see on their PCs.
Cool, no problem.
Yeah. So yeah, Alex, tell us about our apparatus.
Yeah, so Polya, it's an androgynous synthetic android. It's human-shaped, human-like, but totally not a human. It's easy, recognizable that it's a synthetic. Well, I don't know much about my past. For my jam, I was thinking after listening to Slavik that I could be working and helping out at the temple, actually, if that's okay with Slavik as well. Sweet. So I assume that I was found or they purchased me through some kind of black market, origin unknown. Maybe
Would you be given to the temple as part of a repayment for an obligation?
Yeah, that could very well be it. Yes. No idea what my origin is. I think of it that there are not that many like me around, but that might mean that through the production line, every one of us was unique, or that I come from somewhere else and I was just, I don't know, smuggled here or something. It's one thing for me to find out, I guess.
Yeah. And speaking of things, there's some stuff you had to pick at the start there, so I'll go through those. So the vessel, what do you look like unclothed?
Yeah, so I've picked up the anthropomorphic, but yeah, a reasonable human. Actually, I have a picture of it actually. So let's say I'm thinking like the construction is more like carbon fiber or synthetic and glass in several places, like a glass mask covering my face, which has no facial features, just human-shaped head.
Oh, that's weird. That's cool.
Yeah.
So do you have eyes or mouth or nose or just like blank everything?
So mostly blank, apart from some things lighting up from time to time, but not necessarily eye-shaped or nose-shaped or mouth-shaped or anything like that. So the only human thing is the shape of the head. And I have a glass mask in front which acts like a HUD, a heads-up display, information stuff, or maybe displaying information to others.
Interesting. So what do you look like beneath your frame?
Beneath my frame. So I've picked up marked, and I'm assuming that beneath my frame means like really inside, really internal. I will take a more liberal approach to what I look like, and I will say that beneath my frame there is some kind of beacon or tracker installed that emits some kind of a warning signal to those who know to look for it. I'd say that maybe I was constructed for some gray area purposes.
Mm-hmm. We'll find that out.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to know yet.
Yeah, exactly. But in essence, you do know you're like, what did you choose here? A new form of life created by man. So like,
yes, I am tracked by my maker. I'm thinking for that more that the maker as the person responsible for the production line or a single person that made me, and not so much that about the corporation that made me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like it's not so much like whoever's churning you out, but more like who did come up with the original like blueprints or whatnot.
Exactly.
Okay, and they're the ones tracking you. Interesting, not the corporation.
Right. Yes, but the corporation might be the one responsible for the beacon or the tunnel tracker. So I don't think these two are necessarily connected.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. So have you never tried to find out your maker?
Well, not yet. Not hard, at least.
Why not?
I wanted to, first of all, discover what I'm made for and what I'm capable of. And I guess I always have the finding my maker in the back of my circuits. But it's nothing I have pursued so far.
So it's something like you'd rather, when you go find your maker, you're armed with more info rather than not having. Yeah. No,
so I would say that my focus for now is me, and not so much my past. Of course, my past will help define me or understand myself better, but my focus is more on me at the moment.
That makes sense. Anyone else have any questions? Feel free to jump in, because again, you're going to be making relationships with these people. I don't think I have any for now. The apparatus is fairly straightforward. You have feelings about who you want, who you are.
And I start with just one state, which is peaceful.
Oh yeah.
In the beginning, I'm going to be very peaceful.
Yeah, in the beginning.
In the beginning, yes.
Let's see as you go along. The thing with solving a murder mystery is you kind of see the worst in people. All right, so like I said, questions and obligation stuff, we'll do that after we meet our last character. Christopher, tell us about our mnemologist. There we go.
Yes, so I will be playing Baha. Baha is looking like a Middle Eastern person, but in more like androgynous, so you don't really know, is it a he, a she, and she will go by both, so she wouldn't mind whatever you call her, she will answer. So I will also switch pronouns here, so don't be confused. I will confuse myself. So he wears like vintage clothes, and he likes to stick to like old school stuff. So everything looks a bit like really old and worn out, but probably isn't. It's just for the looks. The face. His face is often disguised in like those long flowing robes. And when you see her eyes, you will see that they are cybernetic. And it's always like the flesh around it is like red and hurting. So it has like a very strange look when you see her face in the light. So yeah, Baha runs a store, a nightclub actually, which is like very buzzing, and there's lots of sensual and kinky things going on. So this store is obviously the front for Baha's shady dealings in memories. Yeah, which is her thing. Yeah, she deals with memories, and that's basically Baha.
That's fine. All right, let's go to like this store. So this store where you sell your memories that you're seeing. So what takes place in it that defines this scene? So you said it's a nightclub then.
It's a nightclub, yeah. So there's lots of drinking, partying, lots of sensual stuff going on. There's lots of intimacy. So I guess there's like people hooking up there, being drunk, perhaps going on drugs, things like this. It's not like an upper class place, I imagine. It's more like, more like your regular club. Nothing special, nothing fancy, nothing too worn down. So
so
the average place.
Yeah, the average place for the average Joe. The average club. The Yeah, but
In the
still.
end, it's a cover-up nightclub, so I don't want it to be sticking out too much.
That makes sense. So what's the experience there then? What did you pick here?
So I picked intimate, sensual, kinky, bustling.
Wow. That's a great combination of words.
So like I described it. So I imagine like lots of people going there, getting drunk, partying like all night, all day long. Could be like a 24-hour place. Always people going in and out. And yeah, I imagine like private rooms for kinky stuff. Probably, yeah, go-go girls, dancers, and things like this for central stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So who's your regulars then in the store?
My regulars, I hope like all kinds of people, like all classes, all types of people. So a good mix. I encourage everyone to come in. So there's no strict door policy. So whoever's able to pay can come in and have fun. But it's yeah.
Any specific regulars there?
So there's this guy, Marcus, who's threatening me from time to time to sell me out. So somehow he got to know about my memory dealings, which are probably illegal to some extent.
Ooh, well, yeah, we'll ask more about that. But if it's illegal, then what do you have on your store to like protect yourself?
So I have a very reliable bouncer. So his name is Xi. So I imagine him being like an Asian guy, probably, yeah, huge, powerful, yeah, looking out for the place and keeping everything like in order.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, I also picked like secret ways in and out. So just in case something bad happens or some clientele needs to, yeah, get out of the way in case of, some, I don't know, people showing up that will cause trouble. And also I have state-of-the-art firewall. So whatever happens in my place is meant to happen in my place only. So I imagine like a no camera, no recording policy and things like this.
Yeah, you have a lot of secrets. So speaking of secrets, like how did you get into like the memory dealing business? Because that seems quite even for this world, it's a bit exotic.
I think what Baha was crossing a line. So he, I think, was addicted to like consuming memories, other people's memories. So he's like this type of dealer, yeah, that crosses this line of not consuming his own drugs. So he is actually addicted to his own drug.
Oh,
And this is probably what brought him into this whole thing of dealing memories. So he somehow managed to climb up from the drug addict to the actual drug dealer.
Wow. So like what sort of memories do you peddle then? Is it just any kind?
I imagine it's lots of emotional memories, like also fitting to my club, like so sexual stuff, like intimacies, romance, things like this.
Interesting. So do you just like what other sort of memories do you consume then? Is it as you said, you get high in your own supply, so do you also like those sort of memories then?
Yeah, totally. This is Baha's thing. So he tries the things that he's offering. Probably too much so.
I feel like my other question is Bahar a good person? Because they don't sound like no, it's fine. You have to answer that.
Let's see. I imagine her to be kind of a joyful person, but also a bit like weird from all of those conflicting memories and things inside of her. Sometimes probably not being able to separate her own memories from other people's memories and things like this. Just too many things in my head.
That makes sense. So you that's why you kind of eat those memories. Jesus Christ. All right. Okay. So I think we everyone has got a good sense of everyone else's characters. I'm gonna swing back to Sawako, and first I want to know your questions / beliefs, or if you want to break now. I was gonna wait until we do this, but if you want to break now, like I said, open door. That's fine. We have been here for like an hour and a half. We have been sitting down, so we'll say a sizable break. We'll say 10 minutes, and we come back. We're gonna do obligation questions, whatnot, and then just jump in. Cool. 10 minutes.
Hello.
All right. So, let's go through obligation questions, and then I think we'll just jump you right into meeting the woman in question. So let's start. Let's go back up to our honor bound, Sawako. What are your beliefs slash questions? What do you want to figure out about yourself first?
My first belief is that obligations stand above the regular laws, and so do honor bound when they're on the job. Kind of imagining that the police have their own agenda, private security, they obviously have their very own very private agenda, but we're all above that, and I'm not gonna stop because they tell me to. And probably some of them, the more traditionally minded ones, kind of agree, but by far that's a minority. The second one is a question, and I wonder if I can have a life outside the temple. Because being honor bound is all I know. And this is a journey of discovery for me still. And finally, I want to know why Arista Jordan was exonerated of all her obligations when she died. So I'm not on the job because someone asked me to, but because I'm nosy. And I want to know what's going on.
Interesting. All right. And your obligation questions?
Right. Sorry. I need to look them up.
Yeah. If you so choose, that's the thing. You don't have to answer all these questions. That goes for everyone. All these obligation questions. If you choose to have someone, if you want to develop obligations with other people, if you want to develop relationships, if you so choose, you can use these questions.
So I think the first one is, if someone keeps a secret regarding why I enforce obligations and has told no one, they have one obligation on me. And I think that's going to be our mnemologist who extracted the memory of what was the nature of the accident in which I was involved. So whatever happened, I don't know. And perhaps it wasn't even my decision to forget. But you have access to that memory, Baha. And you're keeping it secret for now. You've got an obligation on me.
Yeah, so know that there, you should have space on your character sheets. Cool. Do you have any more questions you want answered?
I've got two more. So if I let someone off or reduce the penalty when they did not uphold their own obligation previously, I have one obligation on them. So I think when Polya was given to the temple, I argued that she should be given her freedom because it would be unjust in itself to keep a slave, even if the said slave is synthetic. And so that's how it went, I think. And I've got an obligation on Polya. And finally, I trained someone to fend for themselves when I'm not around. But I think I'm just going to leave it for now, unless it would. Pavel, do you think that would work with Cass or not really?
That you trained me to care for myself?
Yeah, perhaps, I don't know, how to use the new Slack or something like that.
Definitely makes sense, because Cass was always in this safe side of life, and now this man claimed that they are going to scrap him for parts or whatever. So yeah, definitely makes sense.
Okay, so I helped you with that, and now you owe me.
I'm quick to agree to that. Yes, all right, Cass, what are your questions / beliefs? And yeah, let's start with those three.
First one, I feel that ghost of previous owners still lingers in the Slack. I need to find who they were. The second one, I need to learn how death of Arista Jordan is connected with my own death to keep me connected to the mystery. And the third one, I hope it's going to be fun. Polya is fascinating me. We should both learn about our new bodies together.
Cool. All right. That's I like some of the questions beliefs just ties you into one of the PCs. That's great. And your obligation questions then.
My obligation questions. All of the questions fit so nicely to at least one of them to Bahar. So I think that would be perfect. If someone else keeps a secret about your subconscious from you for your benefit, they have one obligation on you. I think it makes perfect that maybe there is the time between I was like in my own body and then there was the Slack and something in between, or yeah, there could be plenty of parts over there. Do you find it interesting?
What's the question like? Do you want to throw to
Bahar?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. If someone keeps a secret about your subconscious from you for your benefit, so.
Yeah, man, Bahar, you just keep secrets left, right, and center.
Kind of makes sense.
Okay, so you have one obligation on me. In case you have no idea what it is, we can like work it out. If it comes up in the fiction, who knows? The next one. Okay, so I will start with this one, and I will make it open if someone wants to volunteer. If someone entered into the digital environment to pull me out when I couldn't or wouldn't leave myself. So it fits very nicely because my interface is addictive. So maybe I was connected to the reservoir or some other cache, and I just wouldn't leave it. So anyone wants to be my hero and disconnect me?
I could be that. It could be part of the job.
Cool. So you have another obligation on me. I'm in deep debt. Oh my god. And the last one. If I have used my cyber brain to change something in the digital environment in order to protect someone else, I have an obligation on you. Anyone wants to volunteer?
That's the thing. If you don't have to answer all these questions.
Yeah, I'm just like, that's why I'm making this like open segment. If anyone wants to jump in and say that I use my cyber brain to change something in the digital environment in order to protect them. If no, then we will leave it.
You can have it on me if you so desire. Because that's good for you, and you get an obligation. So yeah, leverage it. Point at someone. Can be me.
Okay. I'm just like wondering what could I have changed, because you are already in this place where Veil doesn't reach. So an idea what could have changed?
Could have been somewhere on a job enforcing an obligation, and you happen to be there and you help me out.
Okay. So maybe like someone was like resisting, and I just like made a couple of police cars just arrive, a couple of policemen like exit the vehicle, and someone is like, okay, I surrender.
Makes sense.
Cool.
And she probably wouldn't surrender, but it could have gone way worse than it did.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, that's all your questions. Polya, what are your beliefs/questions?
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, I believe I only picked up one question, which I also changed in the meantime, mainly because my playbook has quite a few questions already built in. So it felt too much. Well, maybe I will come up with more later on.
But the thing is, these questions specifically are kind of one of the main ways you get XP.
I know. I understand. But I don't know. It felt a lot to have a lot of questions. I could not come up with that many that were not colliding with my main playbook questions.
That's true. We're only here for 4 sessions. Anyway.
Yeah, so I reserve my right to come with another one in the meantime anyway.
Okay.
Sweet. So my only question right now is why did the temple acquire me specifically? We said earlier that it was to fulfill an obligation, but why was I chosen as the reward or the compensation for that? I believe there is something else behind that. It was not pure chance.
Interesting. Okay. And your obligation questions then?
Yeah, so my obligation questions is if someone found you, built you, or modified you since you were discovered, they have one obligation on you. So I'd like to suggest Bahar for that, actually. Probably found me through one of their clients or something. And maybe I don't know if it was Bahar that gave me to the temple to fulfill one of their obligations, or they sold me to someone else and then they gave me to the temple. I can leave that to Bahar.
Probably sold you.
Perfect. So you have one obligation on me. Sorry?
What if you were the illegal thing that he needed to get rid of really, really quickly without any traces?
Yeah, that could be the reason for selling me. That sounds great.
I always need money.
Yes. So you have one obligation on me. The second is if you confided your current view of humanity to someone else, you have one obligation on them. I think it would make sense to have confided that to Sawako, if that's okay with Slavik.
It most certainly is.
During our time in the temple, I guess. But that would mean that I have one obligation on you.
That's fine with me.
And if
what would that be? Blend in or stand out?
Sorry?
Sorry, is that the confiding your current view or
Yes.
blending in?
Yeah, I confided my current view of humanity to you.
Cool. I suppose it's easier when both of us have kind of similar looking faces.
Yeah, my current view on humanity is that it's interestingly flawed. I'm thinking that for a form of life or creation that is so flawed, it has endured way longer than I would have assumed or would have processed.
I suppose the response you had was along the lines of, we're all here in the temple to help with that. Straighten out those balls. I think I'm creating Skynet.
I appreciate that.
Right.
And I have one more. So if someone taught me how to blend or stand out, they have one obligation on me. I guess Cass would have some experience on that. I don't think there is much chance of me blending in, actually. So it would probably be standing out.
Maybe I tried to taught you how to stand out.
I mean, if it doesn't fit, then we can just move on and figure it out later.
It kind of makes sense that I tried to teach you how to make your own avatar in the digital world, so that people will stop seeing you as so strange. Not sure if it worked though. As for standing out,
well, it doesn't have to be both. It's one or the other.
Yeah. So yeah, I probably told you also how do people react and think in certain situations. So when there's an alarm or police, people usually escape, and you were just standing there and observing or something like this. So yeah, definitely more to how to blend in.
Sweet. You have one obligation on me. And that's for me.
Fab. last but not the least, Bahar, our nemologist. What are your questions, asked beliefs?
So I only have questions. So my first question is, why did I erase my own memories of Arista Jordan?
There's a lot of
Then-
questions around her.
Yeah. The second one is, how do I know I'm not dreaming all of this?
Oh, you poor dear.
And the last one is even worse. What defines me? My memories, my dreams, technology, or others?
I mean, considering how much memories you kind of like had, that makes sense.
Perhaps there's something else still. At least that's what I'm hoping. Good. Then my obligations. I somehow feel I actually don't need them anymore. I have so many already, but let's see. I have, perhaps this one is could be fitting. If someone asks you to remove a memory from them they no longer wanted or couldn't bear, and you did so, you have one obligation on them. I was wondering if I perhaps removed Cass's memory of dying.
Yeah, sure. That's
Yeah.
That's definitely one thing. Yeah.
So I get an obligation on you, which I think makes this then 2. Cool. And then perhaps the other one is, if someone allowed you to take one of their memories because you were in a bad spot and needed a credit, they have one obligation on you. So I can basically put this to everyone who feels like he was helping me in a bad time. This could be quite good. I have no favorite from my side, so if anybody thinks this is fitting, if not, it's okay as well.
Yeah. I could have definitely shared with you my memory that is still with me. Like, how do you feel when you first wake up in this slug body? It's like first super confusing a day. It's like probably was like super hot on the market. Like,
yeah, okay, cool. So you get one on me.
That all the questions you want answered?
I have one. I don't know if this could be fitting for our apparatus. If you experienced a memory with someone else specifically in order to help them and for no reward, you have one obligation on them.
Yeah, that definitely
one-
works.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of me requesting memories of humans to experience what they experienced
Yeah, I
and
mentioned that.
compare it to my experiences. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
So you get one on me, right?
I get one on you, yes. Nice. Cool.
Nemologist here, just swimming in obligations. Christ. All right. So I think that's it and then can we take a 3-minute break? Because I need to kind of separate like character creation into play. Just 3 minutes, just a bit of a bio break. And then we'll jump in and you'll get to meet Arista Jordan and kick this off. Cool. 3 minutes. All right, so let's start with Prudence, this city of cutting edge beauty, so to speak. You've all lived here in your own ways. Some of you have businesses, some of you have bound by duty, some of you looking for answers, some of you just living, I guess. But living is, there's many ways to do that. Do it well, do it poorly. Some people do it better, the former than with the latter. And one of those people who's lived really well is Arista Jordan. She is a scientist for Foresight, which is the mega corporation controlling Prudence. And she is someone who's highly successful. She's invented much of the resources and the technology that keeps the plant life in the bottom half of Prudence alive, which is rare for in this future. After all, you think greenery and foliage would be rare, I suppose, but thanks to Arista Jordan, Prudence flourishes ecologically. So she's highly successful and she's retired. She's lived a long life. And she runs her own business now, manufacturing slacks. Because slacks are like, the most cutting edge in terms of living. Like you can customize how you live basically with these slacks, at least in the next life. So she's someone who's successful, retired, and lives down in the Nethers. And she's called the Four of You. Or actually, let me ask each of you, how did you come across this job? Specifically, like what did she call you in specifically, or did you just find it out and you butted in? Let's start again in order of character keeper. Sawako, how did you find out about this job?
I think we already established that I wanted to find out what's really going on. So when I've heard that there's a job for Arista Jordan and the payment is some sort of an obligation, I volunteered.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, especially since people care about the organization. She probably expected someone like you to be assigned to this, or not assigned.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
But she wanted to get involved somehow, and I want to find out why.
Makes sense. Cass.
I think I was contacted when I was just a stick in some memory bank, and they offered me I have the discount on this particular Slack model if I'm willing to come and take a look at this assignment they are having, because apparently her dad has to do something with the reservoir or the cache or the digital world. So yeah, I have a discount. Hard to refuse,
That makes sense. Polya, how did you find out about this job? Or were you contacted directly, or did you just find it out?
No, I found out at one of my talks, I guess, with Saroko, and I volunteered to help because it sounds like a great opportunity to learn motives, reasons. There's a lot of juice here.
Finally, Bahar.
Actually, I think Bahar doesn't even know about the job. I think what happened is that Bahar stumbled across like memory fragments of Arista Jordan and somehow found out that she erased some memories there and just got curious, and then is probably on his way to Arista Jordan to find out what is happening or was happening.
Interesting. All right, so I think, the three of you have been summoned at a specific time, and Bahar will just happen to be there because coincidence would have that. So Arista Jordan lives down in the Nethers, which is where the high class, the upper society of Prudence lives. It's down below. It's covered in foliage and moss, and it's full of art and graffiti, and it's all weird and different in ways that we'll probably get into if we explore more of the place in future. But for now, you all have one destination, which is the Oak Edifice. That's house of Arista Jordan and her partner Molly Walker. And this place it stands out in the foliage and the biopunk tech of Prudence, because there are places here where insects are designed and grown, kept as pets. There's like graffiti that's meant to evoke some sort of artistic nonsense or whatever the people in Prudence are into, or at least the people in the Nethers. But the Oak Edifice is weird because it just stands out. It's just an immaculate wooden house or mansion, untouched by graffiti or art. There's only like natural like shrubs or whatnot. It's all a bit sterile. North of the house, though, you all notice a giant oak. It's just standing there. It seems like it's not manicured to fit the confines of the ground. If you notice, if you walk around, the trees are like, oh, this is perfectly shaped to be this shape. These vines are artfully placed here. But no, this oak is feral. This oak unfurls out, and it's supported by a large statue. Big androgynous statue, just hunched, arms raised, holding up the tree. That's kind of like the edifice at the front of the mansion. And I think you probably all gonna come in at the same time. Bahar, you'll probably come in last, let's say. But I think when you all reach the door, whatever devices around kind of recognize you and kind of like just opens up and a message going, Arista Jordan will see you in a few moments. And you're kind of open up to this like drawing room. Like the mansion opens up to this like drawing room, and it's all like natural woods. Like there's a couch, there's some bookshelves, and yeah, and you notice like, yeah, there's a bay window looking out at the oak statue. So I think the three of you are kind of like gonna filter in, and you can tell once the three of you are kind of together in this room, you're all being made to wait until Arista Jordan is ready for you. So you're gone. So you're unmuting there.
Sawako and Polya, a pleasure meeting you here. I did not expect to run into you.
I could not miss that chance. It is a quite intriguing case.
Keep talking. Oh, I just realized something. There's some a start of session moves we should have done.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry. That's my bad. Let's start with the apparatus. Beginning of each session, you're going to roll 2d6 without a state. I put a dice roller in the chat there in Google Chats. The roll for your party. So roll 2d6. Actually, you know what? So we might just forget because we won't have much time to do it anyway. So.
Are physical dice allowed?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Roll for Party has been notorious for having weird grudges against random people. So we might leave that for now because it might take time. We don't have much time. I do want to get to this scene. So keep talking amongst yourselves. But feel free to start pounding on the door because the door's not going to let you in.
Sawako, I imagine is there some crime committed against the temple over here?
Perhaps.
Well, then I imagine we better stay out. I don't know. deliver the penis?
Your choice.
Hmm. Well, I will just try to stay out of trouble, honestly. But yeah,
She starts emoting just a little bit, and as her facial expression are quite dampened by the prosthetic, it means that she's probably emoting quite harshly underneath. Good call.
I think this after this is like, Bahar, you kind of come up to the door, and the door is like, I'm sorry, but Arista Jordan is busy at the moment. Please come back at a more opportune time.
What a pity. I have the slight feeling that this is the most opportune time to see Arista Jordan. I have some questions for her that I need answering immediately.
Very well. Please put your name, and you see in the veil this like a notepad just shimmer in front of you. It's like, please put your name, and you'll be added to our waiting list. You will have a response in 6 to 8 months.
Okay. So I will put my name in there.
Once you put your full name, oh, go on. Sorry, we're gonna say something?
No, I'll put my full name in there and look grudgingly at the door.
When you put your full name there, Bahar, everything else, suddenly the notepad just shimmers out, and the door just opens as if like, oh shit, as if it's suddenly recognized you, and it opens up to the other three of them. This, what do? You just walk in?
I just walk in. I mean, when I see, I think we know each other, all of us, right? All of us has obligations on everyone. Okay. So we'll just walk in, look very startled to see everyone, and we'll, examine the room and take it in and just, look quite baffled.
All right, so I think, unless you're not going to say anything, you're going to be kept waiting for like 5 more very awkward minutes. And then just unexpectedly, there's a wall there with full of books, and it just kind of rotates around, and Alfred rotates just as the wall kind of rotates. On the other side, standing there is, you all recognize her. This is Arista Jordan. She is her current Slack at the moment. I think I put a picture in the NPCs. Is this like, oh whoops, this like tall woman clad in this black, clad in all black, basically this black short dress and this jacket, and she's got white hair that's in a long ponytail in a manner most like Ariana Grande, just alabaster white, and she's got these piercing black eyes. And so when she kind of turns around, and she's kind of like expecting like 3 of you, and then sees Bahar, she just raised an eyebrow, and she's just like, very well. If that's the case, sit down, all of you. And she kind of clicks her fingers, and like, and you'll notice this cast, like, it's being constructed like these two more couches kind of show up arranged around her, but you kind of notice that it's like, these are very fancy couches to everyone else, but you probably notice there's a bit of embellishment in these couches that just appeared. And she's like, please sit down, honored guests.
Well,
Oh, sorry. Let's see, Cass. What did you say?
Of course, a pleasure finally meeting you in person, Miss Jordan.
Oh, if only there was much pleasure to dole out in these times, Cass. So, no doubt you've heard that I have a very particular and important job out. No doubt you've heard of that. Raise an eyebrow, Bahar. It's like, what are you doing here? And judging from what we've seen, it's like the four of you will be well up to solving it. But I know you want incentives, and I will say that whatever it is you need procured, whether from my company, New Life, or from Foresight itself, it's all up for grabs. Just as long as you get this job done. So think about that while I tell you what the job is. And she goes into the spiel. She basically explains what happened. So what happened is that her Slack was killed, basically, where she was killed. She went on a business trip, and let me check specifically where it is. Where is it in my notes? Oh no. She went to a place using a rented Slack, to conduct standard business, just monotonous like company business. But she was killed before her scheduled backup that evening. So as such, she was missing at the time leading up to what was ruled by the authorities a suicide attempt, because she was found in a hotel room, basically with a particle weapon that basically scorched her neurochip, and that's where her Slack was found. Thankfully, she has a neurochip backed up every 48 hours while she's unconscious and sleeping. So she got backed up and she's still alive, but basically she has no memory of those 48 hours in between going to sleep and then presumably dying. Is it really her? Well, that's the thing. And yeah, so I think when we got back to her speech, she's like, I've called the authorities like any good citizen of Prudence. Because after all, if we don't put faith in our authorities, what's the point of having a city? But those incompetents down at the homicide unit, they've ruled it a suicide for some reason. As if I would be so weak to think of such an act. No, my dear friends, there's something afoot here, and I would very much be in your debt if you find out what's the cause of my death.
Looking that Bahar is here, are you sure that you haven't sold this memory to someone in particular?
Sorry, you broke up there. What did you say?
I'm sorry. I said that I looked on Bahar, and I say that, are you absolutely certain that you haven't sold that piece of memory to someone?
Bahar looks very innocent back at you. Not to my knowledge.
It was more like I was addressing more like Jordan, suggesting that she sold the memories to you. More like this way. That was the implication.
Yeah, I understand.
Well, if I had sold any memory to you, then you would know all about it, right, Bahar?
Probably. I'm not so sure. I'm quite confused. I just came here on a hunch, and now I'm suddenly in this murder investigation. But it is quite interesting.
Well, you're here because you're useful, Bahar. Whatever quirks you have to your personality, that's a surplus. You're here
Okay,
because of
so
what you provide.
why don't you start telling us everything you know coming up to your murder?
All right. And I think she's gonna kind of just give you the spiel. She came in because she was talking to a subsidiary of Foresight. Because her company New Life technically is kind of a subsidiary, and she's the one providing Slacks for Foresight, even though she's technically independent of them. But she was meant to meet with just a couple of wage slaves and just a bunch of like accountants. Like, all right, we're just here. She called it standard monotonous business. That's just a specific phrase she's saying. But when she came in, she went into the hotel where she was staying, and then blank for 48 hours. Her body wasn't found until 2 days later with the near chip. Yeah, just melted off. And go on.
Well, it would be wise to start with the place of murder. Seems like it would be interesting to see this hotel. And I think she said, but wasn't said by you, like, did it just happen like a week ago, or are we looking at a case that happened like a month ago?
Oh, no worry. I don't sleep on attempts at my life. This happened maybe 2 days ago. So it's still fairly fresh. So I think, but while she's kind of talking and she's saying, like, I don't sleep on attempts of my life. I make sure it's done. And I make sure that whatever uncertainties in my life are solved. And you are here to solve them for me. And while she's saying all that, you suddenly hear like a bustling in the corner, and you just hear hey, honey, are you home? Come on, I have something to like. And this woman bursts in. This woman who would say, if Arista Jordan is like, maybe like, she looks like in her 30s, this woman is like in her late 20s. She kind of has the same jacket on, but you can tell like she's got these tight, skinny pants, and half her head is shaved, and the rest of her hair is going down in this shimmering neon blue that is actually glowing. And she kind of bursts in and is like, hey, so Arista, you're in the middle of business. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't be interrupting. And Arista is like, oh, you're not interrupting much. I was just making my final point to these folks. Folks, you know my partner, Molly, and Molly Walker kind of bows down in a very exaggerated manner. It's like, pleasure to meet you. I'm Arista, what would you call me? Am I your partner? Am I just, am I just here to brighten up your dour exterior? Or is that why you keep bringing all these people in? Because they look fairly cool. And specifically, she's looking at you, Polya. And she's like, I mean, I tried to hang out with the coolest people around, but you all look very different. Nice.
And what would you say is cool about us?
Well, if you spend enough time in the Nethers, you spend enough time with people who just think they're cool, They put on airs, they put on the nicest slacks, they just try. What's your name?
Polya.
Oh, Polya. You just give off this air that you just seem so mysterious. And unlike my friends out here in the Nethers, you seem to be looking for answers. They just invent questions that nobody wants answered. But you You all seem cool. I mean, no offense to the rest of you. Well, maybe offense led to you, Bahar. We know what you did. But you know, sorry, it's just you just drew my eye right here. And Arista is rolling her eyes like, Molly, are you done? Or is there anything else you need from our guests here? And I'll go on. Sawako?
Sawako straightens and says, if we are to treat this job seriously, we can only expect complete honesty. Do you consent?
I think that Molly's just kind of struck by that. I don't think she's Molly. I don't think she has experience with the temple soldiers. Just kind of like, But Arisa just nods and says, "I wouldn't have brought in a warrior of the temple if I would not agree to that."
I am not a warrior, but thank you for your vote of confidence. Now, what was the name of the other girl?
Molly Walker.
Molly. Now, Molly, why did you kill your partner? And I'm stopping her for reactions. This is a clear provocation.
All right. Okay. Do you want to probe while you're doing this? I think when you pay attention, study or examine someone's reactions during an interaction, interrupt in an attempt to learn more about them. And okay, so I'll give you her reaction, and then we'll see this probing happen. So she gives off this. She's kind of still because you're an unexpected thing, but she then puts off. She kind of shakes it off and just starts kind of doing this noblewoman sort of giggling, like, "Oh well, I mean, where do I start? Arista here is just like, she thinks." That hairstyle, it's so 2018 for one thing, and her taste in slacks is always kind of like, it's always just behind the curve with me. Like, she makes the best slacks, but she needs me to relies on me so much. She overworks me. Sorry, sir, ma'am, is it? Ma'am, yeah, no, ma'am. I shouldn't presume too much. She is giving this exaggerated spiel. She's listing off like petty reasons why she would have killed Arista. But yeah, so we can demonstrate how. Sorry.
How do I roll again?
Oh, you tell me how you're feeling right now, and you're gonna roll that state.
I imagine that at this point I'm just peaceful. There's not much going on.
You're in your element. That makes sense. So yeah, roll 2d6 plus 1.
Right, can do that. And I rolled a 9.
All right. So on the 9 on probe, you are gonna hold 1. On a 7 to 9, you hold 1, and you spend hold 1 for 1 to ask the following questions. So when the interaction ends, the hold expires. So you have 2, 3, 4. You have 5 questions here. You can answer one of. You can ask one of them.
Okay.
If you need like the basic moves, it's in the Google Drive folder. The veil. Yeah. All right, cool. Also, mark a spike in peaceful.
Right. So I'm going to ask, what do you wish I'd do? What would Molly want this investigation to, or investigators to accomplish?
All right. I think. Well, I'll roll this into their interaction. So when she's listing all that, it's like, see, I just have so many reasons to kill Molly, to kill Arista, but you can tell they're all quite small. Like, I think about killing her, but then I just spend 10 minutes in her dulcet company. And Arista shrugs at that. And I was like, and then all those just melt away. So for someone to really want to kill her, that means there are people who don't like us. And I know there are people who don't like us, but there are people who don't like us enough to want to kill us. That's amazing. I like to think I'm a bit of a social butterfly, but it's weird to think that people want to kill us, and I do want to know who those people are. I want them found for peace of mind, but mostly because I'm just curious. I know people don't like people like me and Arista, kins. People don't like kins for some reason. And out of character, kins are a colloquial term for people who have lived a long time, moving from slack to slack. And obviously people who do that are rich people. And these two are. But she's kind of like, I know people don't like us, but what can we do? We have the means.
I interrupt her and turn back to Arista. Now, if you would grace me with one more answer, and I conjure this, it's like a scroll, and it has the name of Arista Jordan on it. It's obviously virtual.
Sorry, you broke up there for me.
I figured as much. So I conjure up this veil-powered scroll. It's just completely virtual. And there's a name, Arista Jordan, on it, but it's completely empty. And I say, now that we are on the topic of honesty, could you please enlighten me? What were your obligations to the temple before your death? I whip out a notepad and expectantly hover a pen above it.
Wow. You're making headway to answering your question for sure. All right.
Hey, if I don't know, I just ask, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could just ask. She is here. She said she'd be honest. Oh, all right. Let me see. I think of all her obligations to the temple. I think what Arista says, and she's gonna be completely honest, and she's like, "Oh, that is between myself and Tenzo. That matter has been dealt with, but he arranged for my obligations to be fulfilled, and I believe I fulfilled my end of the bargain. If you want to know more, you'll have to take it up with him." You're muted.
I have no more questions. Please, proceed.
There's a few things to start, and she's probably not going to give much, but the leader of the homicide unit, Hilda Air, she looked into my case. She would have all forensic and whatnot. You go to her, tell her I sent you all along, and she should be willing to oblige all of you. And she looks at Bahar again, as if she's trying to puzzle out why you're here. And of course, if there's any more needed, I'm here. As always, if there's questions you need answering, I'd like to provide all the help I can because I do want this solved as soon as possible. Is there anything else?
Just one question. This is not the first time a thing like that happens, right? That's not actually the question, sorry. The question is, what's different this time?
What's different is that I'm involved and that I care about finding it out. Yes, this has happened all the time. But wherever those victims are, whoever this happened here, Slack, death, and reincarnation, all that, either they had the means or they don't to find out, and I have the means. And
No. Sorry, I meant this is not the first time that's happening to you, right?
No, this is the first time.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing is, yeah, go on.
Okay, yeah. That's what I'm trying to figure out. If the other times she has changed Slack or stuff out of necessity and because it was worn out, or if she has been the victim of an assassination before, murder before.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So what she says to that is that every time I've changed Slack, it's always been because of my decision, my choice. It's all under my control. There's never been a time where I've had to change Slacks because of necessity, except for this time. That doesn't mean I'm careless. I backed up my neurochip. The only reason why I'm still here is because I'm thorough. And this is just part of that. I don't like it when there are holes in my life where I don't know what's happened. And I'm offering you a bounty to fill in those holes. Now, if there's anything else, I shouldn't get in your way.
So when she mentions these holes, I agreeably nod my head. And then I address her and I say, Mrs. Jordan, somehow I have the weird feeling there is more to our relationship than just this murder case. But I cannot point my finger to it.
I think she raises an eyebrow at that, and she's like, well, Bahar, whatever mistakes you do with your life is your responsibility. Let me tell you, though, this is not the first time you've told that to me. So think on that. And Molly laughs at that as if like she knows a private joke that only she and maybe you in another time knew.
Okay. So I won't probe further into this. Let's see what we will discover on your murder.
Ms. Jordan, if I can, before we depart, I don't recall if I was working for you or any of your subsidiaries before. Do you have any recordings of hiring me before I was in the Slack?
I think at that she kind of looks away for a bit, and everyone sees it. It's like in this veil. Because again, the veil is here. It's like a bunch of files kind of is popping up, and it's like she's looking through, and it's like Cass, right? Architect, cash engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and fairly busy. And oh, I see. You and your friend Mina, right? You were contracted by Foresight to help expand the reservoir about a month ago. And well, this is interesting. This is part of the subsidiary of Foresight I was going to talk to. And it seems like you've been contracted to build this cache, and it looks like this cache was completed in full. Now I'm wondering and she kind of looks at you and it's like, this doesn't seem to be, you seem to be in a completely new Slack for now.
Yes, some accident happened to me in the last month.
Interesting. Accidents, they say. Like suicides. I suggest you start there. Mr. Cass, it seems. Or, sorry, is it he, him?
Yes.
Cass?
Yes.
Oh. So I think she looks at it and is like, I suggest you start there then and find your friend, whatever it is you are contracted to do.
Of course, if you can send me the particular location of this cache, I will. It might be worth checking.
Yeah, I think she sent it to your private email account, which I guess you probably access that in your cyber brain. Yeah, and so you have the location. It is it's interesting. This cache is connected to a place called. Let me scroll down my notes. This place is connected to a club called Digital Illusion. It's a club known for catering to kins, people like her, and you all probably notice that she kind of blushes a bit when she sends that info. I don't know why, but yeah. So that's where this cache is. I think since we're close to time, we'll probably wrap up with kind of like her setting up your way, and then but before you all kind of leave, maybe Molly kind of like sidles up to you, Polya, and she's like, you seem I still believe everything I said. You seem to be someone with a lot of questions. If you need help answering those questions, I'm not doing anything in the near future.
I think I will definitely take you up on that offer.
Fabulous. All right. So I'll see. So I'll you know what? I'll contact you first, and then, this is gonna be fun. You seem to have a lot you can show me. And before you could answer, she kind of turns around and it's like, so Ari, about this fade that you've not been getting onto. I sent you the schematics, and then she started babbling as you all kind of marched out of her house. Okay, and I think we're 10 to time. If it's okay, we'll wrap there. End of session stuff is basically if you made progress in answering your question, you can mark 1 XP. If you pursue the answer but you did not end up finding an answer, you can take 1 XP for every question you pursued. If you answer the question, you get 2 XP, and that's for you to like tell me if you answered it. So I'll start with order of the character keeper. So yeah, Sawako, did you answer or test any of your beliefs? Okay, let me check the belief stuff. For the belief stuff, if it's tested this session, you can mark 1 XP. If it gets you into trouble, you mark 2. And if it's erased and resolved, you mark 3. That's for beliefs. For questions, it's answer or you pursue. So Sawako.
Right. So I think I made progress on the 3rd question, but not much else.
Oh, I just realized there's no room to put down XP on your sheets. I will figure that out in time, but yeah, just write it down somewhere in that sheet. You have 1 XP for now. All right. So Cass.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird with belief because it wasn't challenged, but I made some progress on. I need to learn how death of Arista Jordan is connected that with my own.
Yeah, I think it's phrased enough that it could be a question. It's kind of tested anyway in the sense of like you were prodding at it, you wanted to resolve it. So I'll give you that XP.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so again, I'll figure out a way to put down XP in the middle. So Polya, let's. Okay,
no, I did not make any progress on that. No.
Okay, cool. So we'll work on that. Finally, Bahar.
Yeah, I think I tried to find out why I erased my memories, but I didn't. Yeah, made only slight progress.
Okay,
no conclusion.
Yeah, what you found out, it might have been your fault. She's blaming you. The both of them are blaming you for whatever you did.
Yeah, I couldn't have done anything wrong, of course. But
so yeah, mark 1 XP. Yeah, so you get 1 XP.
Yeah.
I'll say right now the other main way to get XP is to fail rolls. Classic Dungeon World-ish PBTA. So yeah, thanks very much for the first session. I'll probably decide, you know what, I'm gonna take the plunge and have you on as well, Christopher, for the next 2 sessions. Well, actually, we'll talk about that after the broadcast. Actually, I shouldn't be making.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it and see if it's okay, because it's not just whether I can control 5; it's whether all of you will be fine with 5 people, and we'll talk about it after broadcast. But I'll stop this right now. So I'll say goodbye to YouTube. Goodbye.